I've always loved numbers, and even when I was a child, when people asked me what I wanted to do when I grew up, I always said be an accountant. I didn't know what an accountant was, but I know I wanted to be one. You get to help people. People have a lot of problems with finances, and a CPA can help them straighten out where they're at, where they're going. I always say know where you're going, so when you get there, you're not surprised. And a CPA can help you get there. Well, a CPA does do a lot of auditing, they do accounting, and they do tax returns and so forth, but they also do consulting. They help people with budgeting, they help people plan ahead, and it's taxes is tied in with planning ahead, know where you're going. But if you do this and somebody can lead a more balanced life or lead a smoother life because you actually help them, so they know where they're going. Boy, when you first start off, when I first started, we didn't have, of course, we didn't have computers, we didn't have copy machines. When you did a tax return or a financial statement, you did it by hand and it was typed, all pre-carbon paper. And I don't even know if you can buy carbon paper anymore. And I know when the copiers first came out, I thought it'll never get any better than this. This is great. Somebody brings in some notes for you or a contract, you can photostat it and keep a copy. That's heaven. That's great. And then the computer came along. When we first started with the computer, this would have been back probably in the late 60s. We didn't have a computer processing center in Billings. We sent our financial statements down to Casper, Wyoming to get processed. And then finally, the day came when we got our own computer, which was huge. It was probably larger than my desk, probably 6 feet by 4 feet. You'd have two operators sitting, working at the computer. It was in a separate room, temperature controlled, static proof. You had to treat the computer like a baby. And the other probably major changes is the restrictions placed on us now. We have to follow certain regulations and certain guidelines. It's much stricter now than what it used to be. Yeah, ethics are important to a CPA. I think the CPA profession is one of the most trusted professions in the world. It may be the most trusted profession, and we did get a black mark when some of these scandals were going on. But I think most people realize that the scandals were a very small percentage of our work. I think the local CPAs still had the trust and confidence of their clients because they know us as individuals as well as an accounting firm. I have clients now that I did their parents, I did their grandparents' work. And we're down to the third generation, and I imagine before long the fourth generation will be here. And that's something that you build a reputation over a period of years. And you aren't going to lose 30 years of quality work, 30 years of having an excellent reputation because somebody in Houston, Texas, or wherever made a mistake. The average person still thinks highly of the CPA profession. And it's our obligation to maintain that reputation, to pass it on to the next generation of CPAs. The Montana Society is I've said before, is the glue that holds the CPA profession together. They do so much that people don't always sit back and think about, but they offer, of course, CPE, your continuing professional education. They also offer guidelines, they offer help and assistance. You always have somebody you can call or talk to if a problem arrives. It's good to have somebody like that. It's a necessity if you want to grow and stay strong. You've got to have some organization you can count on, and the Montana Society is one of them. I attended Eastern Montana College, which is now MSU Billings, for 3 years. And back in those days, the dark ages, they didn't have a 4-year degree. So I had to transfer. So I transferred to the University of Denver. And I was originally born and raised in Roundup. My wife was born and raised in Laurel. And we both wanted to come back to Billings. So I came back during spring break and I interviewed, and I was extremely fortunate. I talked with Ray and Bertie Latham. And it was Ray Latham was a CPA, and Bertie Latham, his wife, was a math teacher at what used to be the high school. Now it's the Lincoln Junior or Lincoln Center. And I interviewed with them, and they decided it was about time to start slowing down. They were Mrs. Latham was 50 years older than me, and Ray was 51 years older than me. I was 25 when I graduated. They offered me a job. I came back. I worked for them for a few months, and Ray passed away. About a year later, Mrs. Latham wanted to know if I wanted to take over the practice because she wanted to retire. And I did. That was January the 1st, 1966. So I've been out of school for a little over a year. I was a CPA for about 10 months when I took over the practice. And from there we started it, myself, and I had a part-time secretary, bookkeeper, girl Friday, Margie Stevens, who's still in Billings, and I still talk with her frequently. And that's how I started in 1966. And then Mel McNea came on board in 1980 as a partner. And since then we've been fortunate. We've experienced reasonable growth. We've had a lot of good employees, a lot of good clients, and it's been a good ride, and it's been a lot of fun. Change. Every time you turn around, there's change, and it's not only in the preparation of tax returns. It's in the preparation of financial statements. It's in your guidelines, what you can do and what you can't do. You may know the tax law fairly well today. If you would not go to school, not have your continuing education, or not study for a period of 2 or 3 years, you'd be obsolete. And that's a negative in a way, but it's also a positive. It keeps your mind active. You don't dare relax. You have to keep up. And because of that, that's part of what makes being a CPA fun. And it may seem strange to think working with a bunch of numbers and crunching numbers, sitting at a desk can be that much fun, but it is. Oh, the family's where it's at. You have to have a base, and your family, that gives you the stability you need in order to perform in your profession. And giving back to the community, I won't say it's an obligation. I'd say it's a privilege to be able to help. For young people, it's a great profession. You're never going to run out of work. You're never going to have a hard time getting a job. You can find a job if you're a CPA. I think when I first started out, I worked for Ray and Bertie Latham, as I previously mentioned, and Ray was the CPA, and it was supposedly his firm, but Mrs. Latham did 90% of the work, and she's the one that encouraged me to stay in public accounting and to take over the practice. And I owe her a debt of gratitude. And I owe a professor up at Eastern called, his name was Paul Mangus. Professor Mangus taught me when I first went to Eastern. I went up for a 2-year degree, which was a business associate degree. And he told me, he said that, if you get your 2-year degree, it's a horrible waste. He says, go the 4 years, get your full bachelor degree. He says, you will never regret it. And he's one of them that talked me into it. Well, that's scary. If you look at how far we've come in the last 20 years, or probably the last 5 years, it's hard to imagine what could happen in the next 100, or then even the next 5 or 10 years. One of the primary thing, and I've always told everybody that works here, care about your clients. It's just not a $100 bill or a $500 bill walking through the door. It's a person. Everybody has their own problems. They have their own needs. Find out what somebody's problems are. Help them solve it. To do this, the easiest way, I think, is to put yourself in their shoes, care about them, and work with them. There again, it's an honor and a privilege to serve your client. They're doing you a favor by coming in. You're not doing them a favor. It's the other way around. It's a great profession, and I can say that after 45 plus years, I don't regret it. I'm glad I went into it. It's provided a good livelihood for us. It's given us a lot of fun, And it's been enjoyable. That's the reason I'm still working now, and I'm in my 70s. And I was going to quit when I was 65, then I moved it to 70. I'm now moved it to 75, and I plan in 3 more years moving it to 80. Whether the partners here go along with that remains to be seen. But in the meantime, I'm going to keep coming to work as long as they don't move.